All right, everybody, away we go. Welcome to today's call. This is the TRC sales training call on Friday, December the 14th of 2018. And I am excited to do this. I am fresh off of a call with Paul Cantu's team out in Seattle, Washington. And one of the things that we were just expressing over there, which I think is really important to share, and I'm going to get to Jonathan in a second here, who asked me a great question at the end, is that you have to be cognizant of really the value of the people that you're speaking with. And I don't mean them as valuable. I mean, you have all these choices that you have to bring your guidance to. Okay, those are choices. That's what marketing is that we're trying to take this great message that we are strategic professionals and we can help them. And then we go out to the wild, and we offer to them, right? But to whom? To whom? So many agents over the last 5-6 years have focused on offering their services or giving their value proposition to the public off of the internet. And when you think about the internet as an opportunity, 5-6 years ago, it was new to the consumer. Consumer said, wow, isn't this great? I can go on, look at properties, put my name in, and maybe or maybe not somebody will call me. Well, then everybody got into it, and guess what? The consumer went away. So the consumer who's more quality in the context of real estate for you, meaning that they're more serious, not the quality of people, but the quality of their timing and their motivation. It's more now. And when I say now, I'll bracket it in a 12-month time frame, telling you that I think that's the reasonable spot for you all to pay attention. Right? Inside of 12 months is a reasonable time frame for all of you agents to think, okay, I have a shot if I can make a good value proposition to take it from this initial conversation into this relational type of situation where I'm following up. And I'll get into the pieces of that when Jonathan asks his question that he just asked me, okay? So he had said after all this, well, great, I'm going to go out to the sphere of influence, but what do I say, basically, okay? So that's where we're going to launch off today, and let's get him rolling here first. I'm going to open you up, Jonathan, only first. Are you there? Check, check. You good?
Yeah, hey, Danny.
Okay, buddy. Hey, bud. So, and we know you have your little son at home, so we hear a little squeal in the background. I told you that was quite okay. All right, so let's hit it. Go ahead. So take me what you were just thinking. Like, give everybody a little bit of a context. You were sitting there listening to this,
Sure.
And you get to your question, how, and then ask the question.
Yeah, so my question is basically, if we understand that internet leads, the proposition here was very simple. It was you're getting access to listings and properties that you might not have access to, but since internet leads don't have access to that, very simply through, at the tip of their fingers, now it becomes, okay, if we're going to focus on people that are doing that on their own, sphere of influence, friends, family, former coworkers, and you know that they're looking, you know that they have access to also pricing information, at least some, it's not human-made, it's still computer-generated.
Sure.
But they really seem to trust that information provided by Zillow, Redfin. Your value proposition is, in my opinion, it's probably still access to properties in person, but I think it's more so expertise and trust. So I wanted, that's my feeling, but I wanted to hear from you what you think your value proposition, because there's still the marketing tools, the buyer course, the seller course,
right.
The guidance, but maybe you can speak to what you think the ideal value proposition is for a person that already has access to leads.
Yeah.
To listings.
Yeah, absolutely a great question. So feel free to put me on hold because I know you're worried about him, but feel free to also come back in. So while I answer this, I'll open up everybody else's mic in a second here too, but you feel free to come back in and weigh in on the answer or ask a further qualifying question, okay? So first of all, thank you for the question because I just get so tired of people being afraid to ask these basic questions that are so foundational to our business. What do I say to somebody who already seems to have value? And this goes, Jonathan, this is an interesting question because when you consider how the global business works, which I was talking to the mastermind members about yesterday, you can't just say, well, I'm not there yet. You have to understand how the whole thing works. And it's similar to the way that Cantu would deal with you as one of the Cantu Group agents, right? So Paul and I are trying to make sure that you have access to the best value that you can at Cantu Group, right? So being transparent with that doesn't matter whether it's the agent we're talking about, the seller, or the buyer? It's a fabulous question. What's the value? Why should I do business with you, including all the other options that I could do business with, but also including doing nothing at all? And that's the essence of what the foundational discussion or debate around unique selling proposition lies. And then everybody gets weird about it. They start making up all these weird programs and they're like, well, I have to jump through 6 hoops of fire and then I can do what? What's unique, Jonathan, is you. So let's work backwards here a little bit. The most important value here is you and the insightful guidance. Let me say that. You and the insightful guidance that you will bring to buyer or seller. That's the most important thing to begin to believe in. And I think for rookie agents, that's a tough sell for me. If I'm talking to a brand new agent who's joining me, having them understand Maxwell Maltz's concept of acting as if. And if you don't know who Maxwell Maltz is, I always highly recommend the book, The New Psycho-Cybernetics. It's the evolution of psycho-cybernetics, which essentially is about mind systems. And we have to act as if we are valuable, even as rookies or people who have never been to a championship game, whatever it might be. It's a belief system first. So the belief is that I can be and am insightfully helpful through my guidance. It's the most important thing. So now understanding that my obsession as a coach has been to say, okay, if that's the case, the burden falls upon me as the guide of this group to say, this is why I tell you, try to be on the campfire calls every other week where I dive into the basic guidance plan of buyer course, seller course, and up on the board behind me today, agent course, so that you understand your context. Those are the 3 value propositions in their chunked up, simplified form. Now, see, a lot of people don't think that that's valuable. But let me ask you, how valuable would a guide be if you were lost in the woods, the sun was beginning to set, and you could feel it getting colder and wetter as time went on, and suddenly you're like, I can't tell, the sun's down, it's behind the clouds, I don't even know where I am, I'm lost, I'm disoriented, and somebody shows up with a simple compass and says, good news, the camp is to the south, and here's my simple compass, so why don't we walk in the direction of where it tells us south is? You would hug them, right? But yet, for some reason, as business people, we throw that all away and we think to ourselves, well, how could that be? It can't be that simple. Well, it is. It is. In a world of busy people, and I remember my brother, I always pick on my brother on this example, but he would always tell me early on in his career, but that guy's savvy. I'm like, what do you mean he's savvy? Well, he's a neurosurgeon. Well, wait, so he opens up people's bodies and he fixes them? What's that got to do with going through a real estate transaction? Most people don't do that, let alone every 7 or 8 years, right? So what are you telling me he's savvy for? If he's buying properties every other month or something like that as an investor, maybe. But this is what we do every day. And even as a student of it, synthesizing information, for example, on these types of phone calls, you're way ahead. So I think it starts there. Now let's go back to this new problem. In 1996, as I was telling you in the Cantu group, I think what was really challenging was that there were a lot of people who would go and just get it at the office, quote unquote. And me as an investor starting in 95, I would zip off to the local brokerage, sit down every other week and read through the book as an investor, look for the properties I liked and drive out immediately to see them. That's what I would do. Well, in 1996, Realtor.com does this cozy deal with NAR, takes that whole book and puts it online. So now everybody, as agents, has it digitally. But you still had proprietary control over it. If they went to the office first to see the booklet, that's one thing. Now they could come and sit in front of a desktop, a big clunky old box, and look at it with you. You could print things and give it to them. So you controlled what they wanted, which was pictures and descriptions of properties that were for sale. And if they were selling, that had sold. So you as the agent had that ability to meet them in physical spaces and control it. But as time goes on from 96 and proliferates over the next 9 to 10 years, by 2006, smartphones are really making their way into the business, and people are then able to go online on their phone and look at it. So somewhere circa 2008, 9, I noticed that our ability to make a value proposition, to ask somebody to come to the office even, to sit down and take down their criteria, they're like, why? It's online. And by that time, now Trulia, Zillow, and Realtor really was understanding they had competition from Trulia and Zillow. So you get the three bigs out there doing a better job than the entire industry at simply taking property through a feed and giving it to the consumer in a pretty way and not forcing them to opt in to see it, he said and repeated. Just gave them the experience, then gave them the app to experience it, but it's still our information from MLS that's going out to them. So all it was about was access to information, okay? So yes, they used those applications, and eventually those major companies began to sell relations back to us. In other words, they did a better job of building the relationship with the consumer by not forcing them to opt in, experiencing the stuff, getting some validity with those folks, and then being able to match them with the realtor. And that's this lead gen with Zillow versus the IDX hardcore, just I'm going to grab your info. Well, all of that is atrophying. Why? Because you can only pester the consumer, Jonathan, for so long. You can only keep calling the same person and trying to get an appointment with there is none on somebody who's using the internet early in the process. That's the benefit of digital. We can start every thinking process so much earlier than ever before. You want to buy a car? You're in bed, open up your phone, go to the little white search box and do your homework before you ever have to drive down to the lot and go there and talk to the salesperson. So it's given the consumer distance and an earlier start line. But yet we keep behaving as if it's like them our olden days where they walked through the bricks and mortar front door and sat down and said, can I see the book with you or can I jump online? So you have to have that context to understand the value prop now. Okay? Now, there's really not a lot of value in saying, I can just randomly give you access. But to remember, we are the source of it. So most MLSs have a decent way to set somebody up on a search, get them more criteria, and come directly from the source MLS to them rather than worrying about using a third party. And I won't beat up the bigs, but they don't have to do that. They could get it right from you, right to their inbox, which people still use and still like. I know that because the way that I keep up on the market is I act as if I'm one of those folks. So I always get my Boston and Cape Cod interested areas to me in my inbox, and I look at them constantly. And here I am, the coach and a doer of the thing. So why wouldn't the consumer want it? So we're going to at least just compete in that arena by being the source and giving them a portal into the source. That's number one. So you could compete with that. Nobody's saying to tell them, stop using those other things, Jonathan. They're just saying, look, you can use those, but I'm going to give you this. The next thing is, most people don't take a strategic approach and give them a little dose of what they need. If their timing is inside of 12 months, we all know they need a plan. They are the hero of the story, wanting what they want. But that's going to cause problems because now they have to sift and sort and guide their way through not just the information, but also the process. So we give them a dose of what they need. So we've got the buyer course, the seller course, and if you're recruiting, the agent course. Now you have this courseware, getting what they want, properties, and tips on buying and selling. And they're coming both from whom? You. Now, Goldilocks comes in and says, hey, don't call this guy back up that just said yes to this stuff and is getting it and say, hey, we talked a week ago. How's it going? Ready to go? Don't do that. But yet agents continue to do that every day. And they say to me, well, what do you say after the first call? You don't say anything. You add insight. What people want to know is a little bit more and a little bit more. And if they don't know what to ask, tell them how the market's going. Because what they wanted the most was property info. The most insightful property info is the stuff that's sold for buyers too. Why? It shows them what the money bought in the last 30 days so that when they're pre-approved, and if they're not pre-approved, guess what that's part of? That's part of your strategy. Hey, you got to get pre-approved, but I'm paying cash. Decide how much cash you want to spend so I can sell you solds and show you what that money buys. And if you don't like it, we'll make adjustments. So we've got 3 layers now in this relational thing. One Information direct from the source. Pictures of properties that sold for both buyers and sellers, and for sales for the buyers who want to see those as well. Next, tips on how to buy and sell in a strategic way with or without you. Both of those gifts given to them. And third, the gift of your periodic insight, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly, inside that 12-month time frame, trying to be like Goldilocks in that relationship, not being too hard, not being too soft so they run away, right? Or you forget them and they go and cheat on you. Too hard, you're going to compel them to go away anyway, but kind of just right. Listening, adjusting, saying, oops, looks like he's going to be a little longer. Bi-weekly's too soon. I'll catch you in a month. Enjoy what's coming. If you have any questions, it's here. But all the while, this content is building this safety net beneath your relationship so that you can do it with multiple people. So I think, Jonathan, the value prop at the beginning is let me give you direct access into the source. I'll supplement that with some of our strategies. And from time to time, I'll call with our insights on how the market's going. That's it. 3 beats. 1, 2, 3. Now, if they're accepting first, and I would breathe in between the two of them, unlike I'm doing here, right? I would breathe after the first one. Let me give you what you want through the source. Pictures of properties with descriptions right from MLS. That's what realtors can do. Everything else is just syndicated technology sites. I'll put it in your email. Not that you can't get that from other sites, but I'm here. And as a gift, I'll give you some of the strategic tips we use to help our buyers and sellers be successful when buying or selling. And I'll call you up and let you know my insights as to where the market's going and how things are happening. That is a killer value proposition, right? That is a lot of stuff. And I'll go back to where I started, Jonathan. What makes that unique is you. You're the one putting this all together for them and adding in the insights. It can never be duplicated. Never. So the better listener you are, the better student of this game you are, the more you know about the market. It is unlimited as to the number of distinctions you can make and deliver to that person. And I think that's what's absolutely critical to understand this value prop. Now, when you see how valuable that really is, you believe how valuable it is, you are no longer letting the tail wag the dog. In other words, you are no longer allowing all these internet leads to dictate to you how you should be wasting your time following up people that never really even answer. It's this desperado junkie mentality that we have, that we're supposed to pass off information that somebody whimsically gave us just so they could access property, versus the guy down the street that you know from the soccer game with your son, and he starts talking about buying or selling, and you make this offer to him in an already existing relational way, but now you're professionalizing it. All right? So Jonathan, come back in with me and let me know that all made sense to you, because I want to hear you kind of hit the highlights for me, and then we'll open it up to everybody.
Sure.
Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think those 3 beats make sense. If a consumer can understand that in addition to Zillow and Redfin, there is a direct source from which they're drawing their information that you can give them access, I think some consumers value that. But I really think that the last 2 should sell it for, most people, is letting them understand that, you're going to follow up with the insights that they might not get from a chart on Zillow or from a number on Zillow. And overall, I think that should do it. For me, it's more of a question of how do you do this succinctly, quickly, communicate expertise. Typically, for me, that would be a business card with a website. Here, look at what I know. But
all right, I like where you went with that, but let me deal with that a little bit, okay? I think that's all this content, and I am a fanatic for content at this moment in time as a supporting cast for you, but you're the show, and I'm not backing off that. All of us individually, we are the show. Ultimately, people will do business with people in this industry. They will either believe your authenticity and accept your guidance or not. They will go somewhere else, right? So I think, like I said, in that Goldilocks mentality, even when it's referred, even when it's family, like I can't believe how many real estate agents get cheated on by past clients and they're miffed by that. They're completely miffed. They're like, well, why did they do that? Well, did you do anything? Quarterly at least, to stay in front of them with a market update so your brand is there and your knowledge and insight continues forever? If not, somebody else caught them in that heated moment where they decided to make an impulse decision. I see it all the time, especially on Cape Cod, where people make an impulse decision to go buy a property in that moment in time. And if you're not top of mind, it's like, oof, I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. You just weren't, I wasn't thinking of you. Sorry, but I did what I had to do for myself. And that's very typical. That happens a lot in this industry, that we really, really need to understand that all this value proposition can never stop. So going to the top producers, like I was explaining that Paul and I are working on this stuff, right? What I was saying to you earlier is that even for Cantu, when he's in there and he's looking at all these internet leads, I'm scratching my head going, why is he talking to these people? Right? Why would he waste his time with all these people that aren't even responding? And he doesn't even know who they are. Why doesn't he himself, like I do? When I'm available on the weekends, you better believe I'm open housing one of my listings. I'm serving my seller. Okay, if I get skunked, I work on my business. I'll work on communicating, through social media, whatever it's going to be. These opportunities to get more into the gladiator pit, where there are people who desperately need your help. See, that's the thing I think, you got to be careful, Jonathan, because I can still hear it in your mindset a little bit. You have to be careful in thinking that, like, they have what they need, or you can send them to a website and they'll just get it. Well, what do you mean? What's on the website? Are you talking about going to the website and there's a piece of content, video that explains to them? Well, then you got the right guy. Because if you go to thegriffin.co and you go to property evaluation, I don't care whether you're interested in a property evaluation or not, you've got a piece of content. You can hear me talk about the 4 bullet points that I believe are very foundational to giving a good property evaluation. So at least I'm going to leave you with a good piece of content, and you're going to know me a little bit better now, rather than some one-dimensional opt-in page. So I think you can start that way and support it as content, but ultimately it's about not being afraid to lead them in a real way. But they're not ready to accept this value proposition unless their timing matches it. This is a key point that's been coming up here. And I want to make that very clear to everybody. If you have a great message, let's say we train on this ad nauseum, and everybody's got it. Everybody understands it. Like, okay, I get what you're saying, Danny. We're good, right? So now all of a sudden you go out there and you give it to somebody, and you come back to me a week later here on the sales training call and you say, it didn't work. Well, what do you mean it didn't work? Well, I heard this guy talking about real estate, and I gave it to him, and I offered to set him up in MLS to get sold and give him the tips, and he's like, nah. Okay, great. Was he genuinely ready to buy inside the next 12 months? Well, geez, I never asked him. So we have to have a message that collides with the right avatar. And the right avatar is somebody that, well, there's a lot of variables to an avatar, but let's just first say that the most critical thing I'm trying to teach here is that their timing is inside the next 12 months, and there's a real why that they're doing this, right? I have to downsize. I'm losing my job. The kids are moving to a new school, right? Whatever the case might be, we have to get to the timing, and the easiest way to do that is to ask them. Say, hey, I heard you talking about real estate. I happen to be in it, right? It's a pretty good market right now for buyers because the prices are coming down. So you just inject yourself there. And then after some content that's educational and helpful, now you say, were you thinking about making a move? What's going on? How come you're thinking about moving, right? Now you hear it. You hear some clue as to what their timing may or may not be. And if it's inside of 12 months, what a great opportunity to make your value proposition. There it is. Hey, geez, it sounds like you got to make a move inside the next 12 months. You know what I do with my buyer clients is I typically set them up on the back end of MLS. I know a lot of people love Zillow, Trulia, this thing, and they're good apps, but it's not the source. So what I could do is open up a door right into MLS and get very specific. You wanted to go down the street, right? Into that neighborhood? Yeah, we get very specific. I could give you an update of what sells in there so you can see what the money's buying over the next several months, so that as you get ready to do it, you can kind of see the features and benefits of the properties that might meet your needs, right? By the way, I've also got a great little buyer course. I'll start that for you too. That'll help you get oriented. Whoa, I'm not ready. No, I understand you're not ready. I just want to give this to you because, like I said, all the buyers that I work with that I'm most successful in getting them what they want, they start early on in this educational process so that when the time comes, there's so much less pressure and they're well organized and they're able to get the best deal. But see, that falls on deaf ears, Jonathan, if that person is not motivated in that moment. Be the same thing as, hey, my car lease runs out in 24 months, right? I'm a year into it. And I see this new model that came out. And I'm online. I want to get more. And there's a gateway. And they lead capture me. Now they're calling me. Hey, you coming down? No, I'm not. I'm not. You guys are nice. Your website's nice. Your opt-in page was nice. I learned a lot. But I'm not ready. And then they're calling me back 2 months later. Is there anything we could do to change your timing? Oh, that would be different. Hey, what if we gave you a great deal on a car today? Would you be willing to get out of your lease now? Yeah. What do you got? So if you can solve some problem that they have, you might be able to squeeze their timing in or not. And that's why I always ask, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to do something? Well, I'm 7. How come so low? Well, I've got to wait out this lease, right? What if we could make a deal to get you out of that lease? Would you be willing to buy one of these new models? I'm all ears. See where I'm going, Jonathan?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's solving a problem, meeting a need, and doing it in a way that, and then giving that value proposition that does that. I totally agree.
Yeah, one more thing, and then I'm going to open it up to everybody else, okay? One more thing, what you just said. In the story brand way of looking at things, the buyer and seller are the hero of the story. And every single time they have wants and needs. And all of that creates a certain problem level. And the great news for us as business people, because every one of us is a small business, whether you're an independent contractor, inside a brokerage, or you own it, doesn't matter. The great news is that mess of wants and needs creates almost like a problematic environment that we can come in as what in the story brand formula? The guide with the plan. And the plan is to get you in the back end of MLS first, give you some strategic tips, and get you prepared so that when the time comes to really get in the field and do it, I'm logically your person. I have established my positioning by being way early as the guide for you, the hero. So yes, there's some individual needs, but globally, I want you all to see the story brand formula as the way to think about it. Every buyer or seller that you meet who is serious about doing something, and in the case of this argument today, 12 months or sooner, okay, has wants and needs, and that makes a mess of a problem. You enter that scene as the guide with this plan where you will give properties, tips, and insights. You got it? Okay, I lost him. All right, let's open it up to every... Oh, hey! Woo! Sorry, open up the mics there. I should have warned everybody. All right, I want to hear from the rest of the gang here. Let me hear from you all. What do you think about that? Okay. Sorry, I don't speak Mandarin, so I'm not going to be able to answer that one. I'm working on it, though, I promise you. Yeah.
Danny?
Go ahead, Georgie.
I agree. I've being with you and seeing how my business is morphing and coming to the table, even as a rookie, if I would have had just the gift of I'm giving you this information, I think it would have changed my business. I think it would have changed my whole mindset. It would have made it easier for me to do business because I would have lost the anxiety of
What if they throw a question at me I'm not prepared for?
Yeah, that happens a
Because
lot, George.
I've already answered most of those questions.
Yeah, George, that happens a lot. So help everybody here with that. That happens a lot. So say that again. I want you to dig in a little bit there more. I like what you just said. Going back in your mind's eye where you struggled at certain points, were you struggling with being embarrassed about not being able to answer questions? Give me more of a context. I think that's really important.
Well, no, because I thought on muscle. So it was embarrassing to not have an answer, but I was grained into me to I'll find an answer out for you. I was always, and I still will do that, but the anxiety of the newness and it was exciting, exhilarating, all these emotions, but I wasn't prepared. I can look back at opportunities that I've had with sellers that I didn't bring the full amount of information. Like I did a CMA and I would fumble through it because I wasn't drilled into knowing just this area, especially because I wasn't from this area.
Yeah.
I grew up in Sarasota, Florida. I knew that area like the back of my hand, but I lived in northwest or northeast Indiana or northern Indiana and been living there for a couple of years, so I wasn't familiar.
Yeah.
You know,
all right, so George,
a lot of those things.
All right, so George, so go back and chunk this up. Try to be the teacher here for a second based on what I just said. By the way, if you're joining me late, because I know a fistful of you just did, I went through an anecdote where I trained Paul Cantu's team as we start to move all of his agents off of this delusion that internet leads are going to feed us and bringing it back towards saying, let's get in the octagon of life, meaning our sphere of influence, open houses, whatever low-hanging but not easy to pick fruit that this industry offers, and get in there and figure out, when we're doing that, what the value proposition is. If our radar goes up through conversational real estate, let's call it that, conversational real estate is available for you all every day. If you go into the wild, called life, you will see that shelter is a big topic of conversation that happens pretty regularly. And it's okay to bring it up because it's interesting. Really? You're a realtor? How's the market? How's it going? Everybody loves to ask that question. So the first thing is to be cognizant, whether you arrive new or not, George. Like, let's just say, I want to do more business down the Back Bay in Boston, right? Well, I have been watching the MLS solds for over 36 months now. I know exactly what's happening down there. I know what those trends are cold better than most people because I simply have watched what's going. So if somebody asks me what's going on there, I say, yeah, for the first time in a long time, there's negotiation happening at almost every price range. And it wasn't that. So I know that. So I think that empowers you. I think when it comes to being embarrassed and not knowing whether you're new or, I think this is where veterans get flat-footed and they stop doing it. You have to set yourself up with market knowledge first because that's the number one topic of conversation is the product. What's for sale? What is it going for? But the most insightful stuff is what did it sell for? Because for buyers, that's what the money's buying. For sellers, that's the very stuff that's affecting what they can get. So beyond that, George, okay, what would you instruct a new agent or a flat-footed top producer who's gotten lazy to do that empowered you? What would you do?
To get into their MLS and just know the knowledge that we have given to us that we're paying for. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's stuff that's in my dues. It's why I joined to become a realtor. The MLS gives me every bit of information that I need to pass on to when I get hit with that elevator question, what's the market like? You know, I'm like, well, in this area here, it's 220. You know, the average price is 220,000. We're still in a kind of we're flattening out a little bit. There's more inventory coming in. Mm-hmm. I go, but there's a lot of buyers out there still looking. I have them, and that's what I tell them. That's as far as I go. And then you're like, are you interested in selling? No, I just was curious about the market. Well, great. Here's a card. You ever thought about something? Just give me. I mean, that's all I do.
Yeah.
Good. And I've gotten business from that. Because I know what my MLS is telling me.
Yeah.
And it's real data. It's real. It's not me taking a shot in the guess. It's I pull it and say, this is what the data's telling me. So now I've become the expert.
Yeah, well, I think...
And it's giving me confidence because
Awesome.
Go ahead.
No, I just think conversational real estate is the key term here today. What is conversational real estate?
Yeah.
Well, it's conversation around how's the market doing. And so the other thing is, if we'll localize our knowledge more so too, as to where we would like to really consummate, a transaction with a seller or buyer, you know more about that. See, I think a lot of agents too, especially those that have been exposed to lead generation, they believe it's okay to be the jack of all trades in all neighborhoods. It's not. I don't think it is at all. I think there's plenty of activity in a more localized place. Not that you wouldn't have to do a couple contiguous areas, but I think you have to narrow that knowledge down, and you yourself have to get the cocktail talk stuff down. Price per square foot, because the consumer likes to talk about that, right? I think that's important. Yeah, go ahead. I cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah, that jack of all trades is how I lived my real estate for the first 5 years of my life. Mm-hmm. Because I was doing REOs, I was all over the place, all over southern Michigan and northern Indiana. Mm-hmm. Driving, I racking up miles and driving my mind crazy and never using my MLS. Mm-hmm. So I have no idea what really, example, South Bend, Indiana's market looked like. I knew what their REOs were because we had a large portion of them. Mm-hmm. But as far as anything else, I couldn't tell you. And there was the anxiety because I had too much on my plate.
Yeah.
Not focused in.
Yeah, good. Awesome. All right, let's keep rolling here. Somebody want to give me an anecdote? I'm happy to take an anecdote today for the outside sale. All of you that have just missed the first half hour of this, I want to reiterate, I really think you should go back and listen to it. If you're a guest, it's on the Realty Classroom public page. If you are a mastermind member or campfire or whatever you are, it's in one of the pages. But it's very important. I got a great conversation going today with Paul Cantu's team in a private training about moving off of internet leads and trying to go out to the sphere of influence. And Jonathan had asked me, well, how do you make that value proposition, especially when they're already getting what they want? Okay, well, they're getting what they want from the Zillows, the Trulias, the good apps of the world, but they're not getting you. And you are the value. And in fact, you have better access to better information in a lot of ways if you just set them up in the portal of MLS, because that's where they're looking. They're looking where you have local authority. And if you give them local access to local, product, how can it get better than that? And it's showing up. I'm not saying that some of these great apps aren't more convenient, but if this is coming into their email as things sell, that's also very insightful. And you're filtering. I think what you have to understand we're doing too, when we give access to MLS ourselves, we're doing the filtering for them. Have you all ever gotten on your phone and started searching and freaked out after about 5 minutes because it's maddening? Pop-ups, this thing, that thing. Make it easy on these people. People want to hit the easy button. Hey, did you know? Keep using the app, but I know it can get frustrating. You just have to tell me exactly what you want. I'll go into MLS where I have gajillions of things that I can click boxes on, and that'll put it right in your email so that when you're walking around in your app, I think it might just be as easy to open this up, look at the properties that come up, click on the ones you like, and get the full details, don't you? Duh. It's logic, right? So, but I think we're so intimidated, we're forgetting what our value is ourselves. Forget about a value proposition. How about just us doing the job? I mean, technology companies aren't doing the job. They're just taking information and putting it out there. They're not sitting there. Zillow's not sitting there giving local knowledge. And I know Redfin has gone out and tried to do this. What did they do? They wanted every agent that works for them to work for a discount. What do they think of their own people? You go work for a discount, you can work for us. Keep doing that. I'll compete with that all day, every day. I'm valuable. My insight's valuable. So is yours. Act that way. But start with that property, right, George? And look, here's where I think I've learned something this year about the order of things. In the story brand formula, I'll repeat this over and over. God bless Don Miller's site for having a little download there that just mapped out the story brand. The hero of the story in our industry is the buyer and the seller. It's not us. For me, you are my heroes, right? Because you're my clientele as agents in a coaching context. So you're my heroes. And I'm nothing more than what? The guide. So act the same way for the buyer and seller. The buyer and seller is the hero of the story. And they exist all right in your local area. People move all the time. If you don't believe that, do what George just said. Go in MLS, look at how many properties sold that you weren't involved in. Hello? It's right there in front of you. And then just go out from where you really want to work to say, okay, that's a reasonably sized area where if I want to do my 5, 10, 20, 50 deals, that's how big it gets, right? And I have to be good in that octagon. Now you go into that octagon with a very simple value prop. I want to be your guide, and I'm willing to earn that by doing this for free. And the first thing I do is give you access to the local source MLS with all the details you would ever want. This is your gold mine. Why are you going out to syndicated sites? Just get it in your email the way you want it from me, your guide, for free. Now, by the way, because I'm a good guide, I give the people that allow me to do that a little bonus gift. And that is some guidance. You see, when you do get very serious about buying or selling, you need a compass. I have one. Look at this little infographic. You're lost in the woods. I know this is confusing. As much as you say you want just information, that's what you want, but what you also need is direction, organization. Here's my compass. Have that for free. So not only did I give you sourced the best stuff, I give you a compass for free. But what I'm also going to do is I'm also going to give you my insights as time goes along, just like Goldilocks. I'm not going to give you the bed that's too hard, meaning I'm there every week when you don't need that. But I'm also not going to forget you and be too soft. So if I know when you're going to do something, I'll call from time to time and say, hey, and even if you don't answer, I'll call. And I'll say, hey, not sure if you saw this in your email that came from the source, but 123 Main Street sold. What a fabulous deal. I couldn't even believe it. I was scratching my head. I'm guessing that's the type of property when your time comes you'd like to say. Just send me an email back. You don't have to bother calling me back. Just tell me if that's one you would have bought if the timing was now, so that I know and I can refine your criteria. That's it. That's called insight around the product. And the cool thing is you don't have to come up with a new script every time. You just take one beat, look at how the market's doing, look at how the specific properties that you're feeding them are doing and what they tell for a story, leave a little tidbit of information, maybe a little tip. Hey, don't forget, we're getting closer to when you were thinking about listing. And remember, conditioning is important. So if you need any of my contractors, if you need any of my tips, you know I told you I'd be happy to stop by. Otherwise, keep enjoying this stuff. Boom! I'm out of there. That's it. You just got to get out of there. They don't want anything else from you yet. They don't want it. But you're dripping it out to them in content so that's the greatest thing about digital, George, is that you're able to have MLS deliver for you immediately in the moment. You could never do it as well, okay? It's sending them what they want when they want it. Doesn't mean that when your follow-up moment comes, you shouldn't be proactive and dig into that and come up with something. That's that insightful thing, right? But you're also giving the tips along the way, and what that's doing is demonstrating to them professionalism. And also the fact that you're not bugging them and you're being respectful is also demonstrating professionalism. And even when they don't respond for multiple months, oftentimes they'll call back and apologize, say, I was really busy. My kid got sick, it threw me off for 2 months, I'm back on track. So we just always are such whiners about, oh, why won't they call me back, right? Why won't they say anything? Because they don't want to. They don't want to. You just have to be consistent with that. All right, give me another anecdote. Somebody give me a challenge, a sales challenge. I'd love one on the outside sale. That would be cool. Thoughts, questions? I'll take anything. Throw me a bone.
Hey, Danny.
Yeah, buddy. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and enter the arena. You know, I've always got tough fun ones when I enter the
Gnashing of the teeth.
I got a guy. What's that?
Gnashing of the
What
teeth.
did I say?
Yeah, gnashing of the teeth, right?
Exactly.
Grinding of the bones. Go ahead.
Right. So I got a guy that came off the expired program, and you know, we got our first successful listing off the expired program. Bottom line is he's a really high earner. So he, you know, thinks he's got this attitude like that doesn't hurt me to throw money away. He has a really unique property, which of course makes it harder to price in the start. He was like way overpriced when he came into he already had another contract, property under contract when we got his listing, and he'd been way overpriced for about 4 or 5 months. We get the listing and we put it up. It was still kind of overpriced. And the bottom line is we're finally getting into the area after 4 months with him. We're finally getting into the area where we determine where true market lies. We're getting we got an offer a month ago. He countered the offer. The offer was about $20K off, and we're in the 300s. And he countered the offer really close to his list price because his attitude is, I don't need to sell it, and if I don't sell it, I can rent it. Mm-hmm. So now we're facing the listing expired in the 28th. The guy is, basically the guy's over leveraged. He over leveraged this house to get into his new one, and that's why he's being obstinate. And he is thinking, oh, well, I can rent it. Problem is if he rents it based on what rents are going for in the area and what Rent-A-Meter tells us he should get for rent, he's going to come out at a couple $100 loss every month, which he doesn't seem pleased to buy. That doesn't seem to bug him at all. Nah, that's fine. I'll take a couple $100 loss a month, and I'll wait, and I'll sell it again in a year, 2 years. He doesn't seem pleased or concerned by the fact that I tell him that the tenants are going to deteriorate the condition, and it's probably going to be worth less when he goes to sell it, a year or two down the road after it's been occupied by tenants, then it's going to be worth now. So real life challenge. Give me a different way.
Yeah. All right. Well. Again, it's one of the toughest. Yeah, it's the insecure know-it-all test, right? There's a lot of them out there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Seen the movie. I've been involved in it, right? But he's still the hero of the story. So, in all seriousness of purpose, he becomes a much more difficult person to guide than the other types, right? So he's financially oriented, but he's never going to admit out loud, certainly to you, that he's made a financial mistake by over leveraging this, and he was hoping to get a certain number so that he can clean up the mess. Very typical. A lot of people do that, right? So having said that, how far off are you? Can you take me back to the math? Because you have a math problem, right? So we have to solve the math problem. So ultimately, it's the wah, I'm not going to give it away type of thing, instead of just saying, geez, the reality of real estate is it's worth what it's worth, right? So I think what you have to ask yourself in this case is, how close is this guy in his math really? So, I always go back to the situations like this with where there's a net sheet, right? Where there's a net sheet. And the net sheet is the reality moment where somebody looks at that and says, okay, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, right? So I would ask,
Right,
have
exactly.
you done a net sheet with him?
Yeah. Well, we did the net sheet. We did the net sheet at the start of the listing. I did the net sheet when we got the offer about 30 days ago. Breaking it down into percentage terms, the offer we got about 30 days ago versus where we are on price, which of course I take that offer as to be, okay, we finally found our market. We've got a ready, willing, able buyer. They're offering this. And in addition to all the market tracking that we've been doing, indicating that that's where most of the action's lying in price range now.
Yeah.
Someone has spoken. They're ready to write a check for this. Well, that price is 5.8% off of where we're listed now.
Okay, so hold on. Have they written? Hold on, Chris. Hang on. Have they written the offer?
Yeah.
Have they written the offer?
Oh, well, they wrote the offer 30 days ago, and then they were put off by this guy's obstinate counter, so they went on and bought something else.
Okay.
But that's not to say that there aren't any other buyers out there.
How did he count? Hang on. Hang on.
Yeah.
You got me evidence coming, so slow down. In the first offer that he got, what was his response?
What was his response? The seller's response? The seller's response was, let me break it down to percentages for you.
No. What did he say? Because you made a value judgment on what he did. You called it, I don't know, an obstinate. I missed it a little bit. What did he say?
What did he say?
To you. You bring him an offer.
Well, we just went back to the same dialogue. Well, geez, I don't know. I'm not going to write a big check at closing, and I'm prepared to bring a couple $1,000, but I'm not going to, write a big check at closing. I can always go on and rent it and blah, blah,
How
blah.
much?
Blah,
Okay,
blah,
hold on. Slow down. You're going downhill too fast. You're downhill skiing on me. Slow down. Okay? You got to break them down. That's a legitimate concern. Like, you tell me you want to go write a check at the table. Do you? No. Okay? So,
No.
all right, okay. So how big of a check would he have had to write at that moment in time?
To accept that offer?
Yeah.
About $20,000.
Okay, so 20 grand versus 2 grand. He was willing to write something. He throws 2, they got 20. As far as I'm concerned, I got an $18,000 gap I got to close. Not bad. Not bad is what I'm sitting here thinking. So what did you do? Did you counter?
He countered, yes. They did not respond to his counter. They walked.
Okay, so what was his counter? How many thousands did he come down?
He came off 6.
Okay. What's wrong with that? 6 off of what asking price? Sounds like pretty reasonable to me.
6 off of...
What asking price?
6 off of... Yeah, I think we're 345 now.
Okay, so he comes 6 grand off of 345. I think that's pretty reasonable. Guy's almost 2% in his counter offer. What's wrong with that? Now the gap, and you're telling me, based on the math you told me, I presume there was an $18,000 gap. And he came down 1/3 of it to close it. Am I right? Did I get the math right?
Actually, it was, yeah. I'm working with round numbers, so now, no, actually, I mean, when I get into it, it's closer to, $22,000 gap.
Okay. All right, so 22, he comes in 6, and they just walk?
Yeah.
But you acted as if like he was the bad guy. I don't think he was the bad guy. He made Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I know, but we're getting no action on this property.
Well, hold on. Whoa. I know what you want. Because that was all about what you wanted. But you're the guide, not the hero. I'll say it again and again. Okay?
Right.
And that's the only way to get your feet underneath you when people are frustrating. Right? So now, that ends. He says what?
That ends. You mean the buyers walk away?
They walk.
They don't get another,
he says what?
Yeah, they walk. They don't counter. He shrugs. I mean, he doesn't say
Okay. He shrugs. You get a price reduction from there, yes or no?
No. He stays at 345.
Okay. Has he come down off of the 345 since that event took place?
No.
Okay. You get another offer. How close to the first one?
We've not gotten another offer.
Oh, okay. So now you're asking me. So you're asking me what to do. Is he getting showings?
No.
Okay. So it's gone cold since that happened. Yeah.
Correct. The offer came in early November. We've had 1 showing since then.
Okay. All right. And so what was? Give me the absolute number they made the offer on and then walked.
325.
Okay.
I want to give you some exposition to that. A couple of days before that, they'd offered 320, and I forget where he countered, but he countered, I think, right at his list price or something. Very little movement.
Yep.
And then they walked at that point, and then they came back 3-4 days later, and they said, "Okay, here's another one for 325."
Okay, so they came up
They
5.
right, less than that.
Okay, all right, good. I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. What did they buy?
What they bought was something that was actually priced at 339, but had additional different features that ours does not.
Like what?
2-car garage versus 1-car garage. More open, unified floor plan. Larger lot. Finished basement.
So he got smashed. Have you shown him that?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, what did he say?
He says nothing. The guy doesn't...
Well, hold on. How did you show it to him?
Email.
Yeah, no good. No good.
But I'll follow up via. I mean, at this point, do I just need to say to the guy, "Hey, we need to get together"? Because again, he doesn't. The pattern is I will call him and leave a voicemail. He won't return my call.
Okay.
I'll text him. He won't return.
Of course, you need to get together. Of course, you need to get together.
Yeah.
Hey, when can we get together to go over where we're at and charting the course to get this done? When can we get together? Now, he probably presumes you're coming in for a price reduction or whatever, but whatever. I don't know how you set these up and how long this guy has been with you, but if he's been, I go back to what I said before about this whole value proposition. Number one, is this guy getting a feed from MLS as a client of yours? updating him every time something comes on and sells around him. New things that would compete with him and things that sell. Is he getting those?
Yes.
Is he opening them?
His wife is. He is not.
Okay. So how do you know he's not?
Because I can check in on the back end of the MLS to see.
Okay, so it's time to say, look, you've gotten a bunch of stuff that's come to you, and it's time for us to kind of review where we're at so we can get the strategy, set up for getting this done. Absolutely, it's time for this, and especially after a failed attempt at putting something together. And it's a reiteration. The main reason for this is not to thump the hero over the head. It's to reconnect him as to why he's doing this to begin with. Right? Why are you doing this to begin with? Sure, you could rent it. Do you want to be in the rental business? Is that what you want? Have you ever been in the rental business before? Right? Because turning this into a rental is a whole business model. So if you don't want to write the check that it seems like you might have to write, okay, then we got a problem. You do have to rent it.
Hey, Danny.
Yeah, go ahead, Lee.
One other question I always ask, was that plan A or plan B to rent it?
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. It's a great way to put it. That's plan B. Why are we going to plan B? It's an excellent way to put it. So again, it's about reconnecting the hero of the story to why they're selling in the first place. And I like Lee's tool to say, well, was this plan A? Why didn't we just do this at the beginning? Why didn't you just rent it? Right? Okay, and it appears that as a rental, it's going to be an alligator, let alone the fact that they're not going to care for the property like you. Are you prepared for that? Are you prepared to write the check every month? Are you prepared to deal with tenants that might do damage, might not do damage? We don't know, but they're not going to take care of it like you. Are you prepared for that? And that's where you just have to give them that heavy dose of reality so that they get reconnected to what they're doing. Now, he might stomp his feet like Rumpelstiltskin at the fire, right? He might want to blame you, but just stand still and say, it is what it is. My job is to be your guide. You might not like it, that this path I'm taking you down is a little bit bumpier than we all thought, but that's the way to get there. You told me you wanted to go there. If that's changed, I need to know so I can give new guidance. That's it, period. You need to go with them immediately. In fact, you should be systematizing this. In your marketplace, depending on how quickly Kentucky's turning over, you need to systematically be having this conversation. Now, I think at our office, we're trying to always have it. We don't wait for 30-day periods. If we get negative feedback or something happens, good, bad, or ugly, we're going to have it. And we have those tough conversations, right? Because we're guides, and you can't leave us guessing on reading your mind, right? Follow?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you got to get with them, I think. Good stuff, though. Anybody want to comment? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I like that when we get together to chart the course.
You got it. You got it. Again, I think it helps a lot. And Chris, I always like to stop you in your tracks because your frustration is setting you up for confrontation, right? Because you made some negative comments about him and the process he's in, and that's just not good guidance. And I know what we all do, right? We all get frustrated with clients. I get it. But ultimately, it's not good guidance. It's not the ultimate that the guide can be. The guide has to be this altruistic person, yet lean in. Say, all right, I know we're on this course. We got there. We made partial market for it. We need to look at where we're at, and we need to just make sure we're still headed towards the same North Star. Like Lee said, whoa, wait a minute. We had a different plan A before. Now that the market's given us feedback, are you changing that? So you really have to get with all decision makers. If she's watching and leaning in, even if he's trying to steamroll her, if you get them all in the house together at the same time, all decision makers, then you're able to go from there. But you got to go face to face with this guy. You're already late. Get there.
Got it.
Okay. Good work, though. Thanks for bringing that to me. That's a good one. All right, any comments on that or anything else before we wrap it up? No? All right, hearing none, thank you all. Go have a good weekend and prosper. Go use this stuff. Remember, you are the value. Offer them the back end of MLS. Give them your tips. and give your insight over time, that is an unmatchable, unique selling proposition. Nobody can do you. And keep working on it like we do here so that you're more articulate. But George gave the best piece of advice today. Get into your MLS. Know what's going on. It's a marketplace. Go check it out, right? There you go. All right, everybody. See you later. Have a great day. Thanks for all those that participated actively to give me my anecdotes. You bet. See you later, gang.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, gang.